everyone, to get to the artist behind your favorite artists. Ed Rohde takes award-winning photos of your favorite musicians and songwriters, and now he has a very special exhibit on display. You can find it at Nashville's iconic Bluebird Café.
Awesome photos. Ed, thanks so much for coming back
ladies,
in and
how are
seeing
you?
us.
Good to be back.
Well, we are so glad to have you back, and I just love seeing you get this recognition. First with your book, which, by the way, since he was last here, was voted one of the best music books of 2024 by Rolling Stone.
Can you believe it?
It's incredible. And now you have this exhibit, and this just has to feel like such an accomplishment, because this was a project that was really more than 3 decades in the making.
It really was, and as I was putting it together, you know, it took me a couple of years, you know, to piece this together from all my archival film footage and my digital files. I always thought that I wanted to put together a traveling exhibition, because, you know, to talk about songwriters, to talk about songwriting, you know, and just how many people in Nashville, all these people that write these great songs that don't really get the huge recognition, you know, a lot of the artists get. And I wanted to, you know, at the same time, it was really kind of crazy putting the book together and then trying to figure out how this traveling exhibition would you know, be put together too. And so they all kind of, you know, happened at once, and we just spent 6 months in Bristol at the birthplace of country music. What a beautiful museum that is. And a lot of folks, you know, saw it up there, and now we're at the Bluebird, and it's so exciting.
I know, I heard you say it's almost like a full circle moment.
Truly.
Explain.
Well, when I first moved here, way back in the early 90s, I spent a lot of time there in the evenings, you know, watching a lot of acts. And they had all kinds of stuff on the walls. And I just started my project, and it was like, well, I got all these great photos, all these wonderful songwriters. I asked Amy, why don't we put the songwriters on the wall? And she was like, well, then we need to paint the wall black. And I've kind of started the tradition to put up art and songwriters on the Bluebird wall. And ever since then, you know, it's kind of been a thing, and I'm really glad to be back there. It's obviously one of my favorite spots in Nashville.
I absolutely love that. You said originally it was frogs.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I think there were a few frogs in there.
Well, it doesn't stop at the Bluebird, though. This is great news. You're going to also have it over at the Country Music Hall of Fame.
Yes, it'll be in the Bluebird through the summer, and then in August we're going to be at the Country Music Hall of Fame for a whole year. I mean, what an incredible honor that is. I mean, more than 1 million people go through that place. You know, probably more than that. I'm probably underestimating. But just to be in the Hall of Fame, I mean, I couldn't ask for more. It's such a beautiful museum, and to be there for a year and to put up some of my favorite, you know, songwriting images. Oh my gosh, amazing! I'm speechless.
I mean, your work is speechless. I'm looking at all of these photos. I saw the Chet Atkins photo come up, and I know he was really instrumental in starting out your career when you first got here to Nashville.
Truly.
What would you say to him today?
Oh,
if you could tell him anything, what would it be?
The biggest hug and the biggest thank you. I mean, I moved to Nashville. I'm a young photojournalist. I'm working for the Nashville Banner, and it's like the first guy I meet at my first #1 party is Chet Atkins. You know, I mean, my dad still is a guitar teacher and fingerstyle, and so I listened to every Chet album growing up, and I knew everything. So to shake his hand and then over time spend a lot of time in his office and becoming friends with him, he was very, you know, helpful in getting this project started. Without Chet, we wouldn't have this, truly, because he was the one that said, you need to go hang out with the songwriters and the musicians. They are the backbone of this community. I mean, without that push, you know, and his help, I surely wouldn't be sitting here probably.
What was it like going through all of your photos and picking the ones that went in this book?
So I have, if you go into my storage room or rec room, I have 15 boxes. I mean, not boxes, monster, you know,
Right.
storage bins, and it's film. It's just, I shot film for so long. And so all types of film, and then don't count the years of digital. And so I have 30 hard drives of digital. And so the pandemic gave me that opportunity to slow down
And go through.
and say, okay, we're 3 decades in, let's figure out our first edit. And my first edit for this book, 352 pages. I kid you not. I mean, I gave it to my wife to look at. And she was like, nobody's going to go 352 pages. I won't go through that. I had to cut it down to 192. You know, that was hard. But to go through my history, some of it I absolutely had forgotten, to kind of rediscover the places I've been and how lucky I was to be in some of these places with some of these icons of songwriting. You know, it's hard to believe. You know, it's so strange. And then try to pick which one, because you should see the cutting room floor. There's a lot.
Well, and there are so many stories behind these photos, just like songwriting, stories behind the song. But some of them, you know, you went to this grand photo shoot. Some of them were just in the blink of an eye.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Which stories kind of stick out the most from that are in the book?
Oh, I mean, there are so many great moments in there. Like the great songwriter Hank Cochran. You know, without Hank Cochran, we probably wouldn't have Willie Nelson. I mean, he was responsible for Willie staying in town. And Hank was a great friend of mine. And Hank called Willie on the phone. Don't ask me how that happened. I have no idea. And said, you need to meet this young man and his camera. And the next time Willie was in town, I got the direction to go up to Willie's bus, and I knocked on the door, and this big old guy jumped out and looked at me. I thought, oh, I'm in trouble now. And he says, are you the photographer kid? And I said, yes, sir. And then right behind him was Willie. He shook my hand and said, any friend of Hank Cochran is a friend of mine.
Wow.
And it was like, yeah, thank you. I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy.
That is
you know,
amazing.
and so I have so many moments like that through the years, you know, that I'm lucky to see. And that's part of my makeup. I'm a photojournalist. That's my training. I love history. I love documenting that. I realized early on who I was around, and it really wasn't being documented a lot. And music affected me. I mean, that music was, I grew up looking at albums, album covers, reading about rock groups and country music. And so I know how much music means to people. So to kind of bring this to the masses in a way, and kind of, you know, show people that all the talent that are behind the songs. 'Cause it all begins with a song, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Truly, it really does.
Thank you so much for your time and your talents. We appreciate
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
Everyone, for more about his book, Songwriter Musician, and to read more about the exhibit at the Bluebird Café, even check out his portfolio, visit edrody.com.